All right. Hello, everybody. Hope you all are doing well. This is DFS Army's pre-lock show where we are here to answer your questions, talk through your concerns, but really focus on going game by game, talking through the guys we like, our strategy for the slate, and trying to put you on a good spot. But before we get to today's slate, let's look at last night. It was a pretty good one. We had a lot of plays go well. I think not having as many open spots in the last couple of games is kind of what burned me a little bit. But how was last night for you, Brandon?
It was a really good night. I was kind of mad because I got up to second place in the mini max after the Denver game finished, but of course SGA was still on the slate and he had different plans for me. So those lines did knock me down a bit, but overall, I think I went like 4 times my entry. So that's always a good night.
Yeah, it's one of those where it was positive, but it's always like, what could have been? What could have been if things went our way? But let's look quickly at what went well last night, or the $50,000 winning lineup from last night. It had Jalen Pickett, someone that was super chalky once you late swapped after the Denver news. Castle was a guy we forced exposure to. Harrison Barnes was someone that was also showing up in my lines as well, so those weren't really sneaky. None of these names we're going to touch on were super sneaky. But Anthony Davis was one of the lower owned, more expensive guys in this lineup. He was a leverage play for us last night. DeAndre Jordan was in this line. Russell Westbrook was in this line. I do wish I would have listened to myself and went ahead and locked Russell Westbrook in, but I'm not going to do that 9 times out of 10. Sandro was in the winning lineup, and he was someone else that we forced exposure to. Again, he sucked the game before. I always like forcing exposure to guys like that. And then you mentioned him, Brandon. SGA came in that final util spot. And I think it was Jay who really mentioned forcing exposure to him and then kind of followed suit from there as well. So, like we said, no one's super sneaky that we didn't talk about on this show. So let's try and make that happen again. Cedric, good to see you, man. Diego, what's up? Good to see you as well. I need money. Said, hey, beat up. Stop talking bad about my Lakers. Hey, if it
No
helps,
disrespect, man. No disrespect.
No disrespect. We'll play some, but we're also gonna play against them too. No shade. Trav, Av, good to see you as well. Let's make it happen. All right. So first things first, we have the Orlando Magic going up against the Wizards. Low total here, gigantic spread, but great matchup for the Magic. We know the Wizards suck defensively. Brandon, who are you looking at here?
Just the main 3 guys here for me. Put a 20% man on both Franz and Paolo, and then 15 just to match the field on Wendell. I can't trust anyone outside of those 3 guys.
Yeah, I get that. I have a 20% min on Paolo and Franz as well. I put a 1% min on Cole Anthony, just getting a little cute. I think there's better plays on the slate, but decent spot for him. KCP, similar story as well, but I think there's better value. Wendell Carter Jr. is a great matchup for him. We know how volatile he can be. I didn't do anything to him. I think there's some better value, and so I didn't feel like forcing exposure there, but I understand the play. So I don't have a ton of exposure. If he goes off, I'm just going to be out of luck unless he starts to show up in a few more of my lines. Originally, he was showing up in like 5% of exposure for me, but now he's not showing up at all. Anyone else you want to touch on, Brandon, or we get to go to the Wizards?
Nope.
All right. For Washington tonight, they won 1 game too many last time out. They're like, no more. Jordan Poole's out. George is out. Chris Middleton is out. Holmes is out. Anthony Gill is questionable, but doesn't really change too much here. A ton of injuries or just guys not playing tonight, but the matchup against the Magic is just brutal still. It looks like you still like some of these guys. Who are you forcing in?
The only 2 I manually forced in was Vucevic. We keep talking about him like he's still a great price, and when he sees the minutes, he's very efficient. We saw that last night, so going right back to him. And then JT Thor, he's just kind of a dart throw. He's projecting to get a lot of minutes, 26. So it's hard not to take a shot on somebody like that. And then as you can see, Carrington and AJ, they're showing quite a bit of ownership. And I guess I understand it because Poole is out, but I'm definitely going to be under on both of those guys. Let me see where I'm at. Actually, I got a little bit more Carrington, 18%, so I guess I'm okay with that. But definitely be fine if that drops. And then 1% AJ Johnson, so I don't feel the need to force any more of those guys in this matchup.
Yeah, I'm not excited to see any of these Washington players show up, but JT Thor did pop for me as well a little bit on the sim model. I'll follow you and put a 10% min there. Does make me nervous. Tristan, I think, like you said, we've seen time and time again, he's solid. Even in tough matchups, he put up, what was it? Let me look and see. Against this same team, he put up 39 fantasy points in 20 minutes, and he's been seeing sometimes a few more minutes than 20, so I'm very comfortable forcing some exposure here. I'll do 16. You did 20. Yeah, I'll just do 16 just to try and match the field. Again, I'm not overly excited about these guys. And then Carrington is showing up in 29% of my lines just naturally, so I'm slightly over the field there. And then AJ Johnson showing up in 11% of my lines. He's probably the guy I'm the absolute least excited to see show up in my lines just because he was explosive in that really soft matchup. I don't think he has the same type of upside in the more difficult one. Next up is when things start to get a little bit more interesting. For the Bucks, they're going up against a really bad Philadelphia team. Lillard is still out. Nothing else is really too game-changing here from a DFS perspective when it comes to news. Who are you liking here, Brandon?
So there's Giannis, of course. He finally looked good last game. And of course, it's carrying a lot of ownership. It's as soft as it gets against a banged up Philly team. I'm at, I think, around 44%. So I'm okay with him not being a core play, especially when there's other studs on the slate who can match or do better than him. And then there's always that potential blowout risk in this spot too. So I'm definitely okay, especially in single entry if you don't want to play Giannis. I don't think he's a must need. Then there's Ryan Rollins. I put a 20% min on him. He's another cheaper guy we continue to mention who's been playing really well. Again, soft matchups. I still like his price. Just wanted to make sure I'm at least filled weight there. I'm going right back to Kuzma for the same reasons. Soft matchup. He hasn't been the best, but he hasn't been too bad lately. And as long as you can get between the 30 and 40 DraftKings points, I'm good. And then taking a shot on AJ Green, just another cheapie I want to throw in the mix. And someone who can get potential blowout run. And then Brook Lopez, we talk about our love for him quite a bit. Really soft matchup for him as well. So getting quite a bit of this team.
Yeah, I'm with you on a lot. For me, Giannis is just never going to be a priority. He just hasn't shown a ton of upside this season. And until he does, the DS is going to have to force him in. And since I'm forcing exposure to other studs, he's just not really showing up for me, just like last time. And I'm okay with that. I'm double checking, making sure he hasn't slid in. And he's not. So that's just going to have to be what it is. If he goes off, congrats to everyone else who played him. Kuzma is someone I do want to force exposure to. It's really more of a price thing. 12,100 Giannis, I just need to see more. Kyle Kuzma, though, 6,200, great matchup. He doesn't have to do that much in a soft matchup. I'm hoping he can get there for us, even though he hasn't been the most consistent here recently. Brook Lopez has shown some signs of life, and in a great matchup, he's going to be a leverage play for me tonight, so he's someone that I'm forcing exposure to. I have a 20% min on him currently. I'm okay with anywhere from 15 to 20, ideally. And then Ryan Rollins is showing up in 33% of my lines. As long as he's going to continue to be over the field at 4,700, no Lillard, I'm going to continue to play him at this price tag. And that's it. Let me double check, make sure no one else is sneaking in. Yeah. All right. Other side of this game is ugly. For me, I have an 8% min on Bona. I'm thinking about taking it off, to be honest, just because last time Yabusele was out, I think that did boost things for him. So I'm going to take that min off. And then I liked Lonnie Walker too, Brandon. I didn't put a min on him. He was showing up in about 7% of my lines of a like. But I like the min you have. What was your thought process there?
Yeah, he's been starting, playing a lot of minutes, and he's one of the guys that are still I feel like at a reasonable price. So definitely wanted to force him in. I believe he was popping on the sim model too. So when all those things align, I definitely don't mind playing somebody like him. And then Bona, I did consider, but Yabusele has to be out for me to go there at this price.
Yeah. If he was a little bit cheaper, and if we didn't have some of the other center value we have, I could have talked myself into it, but we'll wait and see. Big Rob, I see your question. We'll get to it towards the end of the show. Next up, we have Minnesota going up against the Nets. I think I like this team a little bit more than most, but who are you looking at here?
Only two guys. I wanted to take a shot on at least one guy here. I ended up going with DiVincenzo. He hasn't been the greatest, but he's just another sim model play. I wanted to take a shot on. And then same for Gobert. He's been pretty consistent, and I just like the really low ownership, so just threw a 5% min on him. I did think about Ant, but I think there's better pay-ups tonight.
Yeah. Ant just annoys the hell out of me, and this is one of those spots where he would go off because that's just the kind of shit he does. So I put a 6% min on him, even in a low total bad game environment. I have a 2% min on Randall. Nets are not a good rebounding team, and so I think Randall or Rudy have a chance of just kind of getting there from rebounds and just being able to double-double here, especially Gobert at that price tag. But 2% min on Randall, 4% min on Gobert. And I'm still liking these big, so I have a 2% min on McDaniels. And then DiVincenzo, I'm with you. I put a 5% min on him as well. The Nets side of things, I couldn't do. I think D'Lo and Claxton are viable, but I didn't touch them. Did you?
Yeah, no, I skipped right past this team.
Yep, none of them are showing up either, so I think we're good there. Next up, we have Portland going up against the Raptors. Portland is a little frustrating today just because Simons is questionable once again. And we know if he gets ruled out, we're looking at Banton, and everyone else on this team sees a nice boost, especially in a soft matchup against the Raptors. But that's more of a wait and see approach. What are you doing at this point?
So I threw a like on Denny. He's just playing way too good right now. And I wasn't getting as much as I wanted. He's somebody I want to be a core play tonight, especially if Simons gets rolled out again. And we know how bad the Raptors defense has been this season. So I think this is another smash spot for him. If Simons does play, I definitely don't mind him. I think I was around field weights. I actually fell a bit around 20%. So definitely okay with that. Gonna bump this up a bit too. I want Sharp, 20% min on him for the same reason. Soft matchup, high upside. And then Klingon and Kamara were two I weren't really getting, but just based on the amount of minutes that they play and the potential upside they've shown in the past too, I just felt like I needed some exposure there as well.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on a lot of this. Hangry, I did see the Ant news. I think everyone has. It's been ridiculous. Ant is ridiculous. And, like you said, that's wild is enough of a take there. For me with the Trailblazers, I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do. Right now, the only player I'm forcing exposure to is Simons. I have a 28% min there. And then Avdia showing up close to field weight exposure naturally. Sharp is showing up around 16%. Klingon is showing up around 7%. And that's it. I'm not going to force more exposure to these guys until we get the Simons news. I think they're all solid plays, but I'm more excited about them if Simons is out. Especially if Avdia wasn't super chalky at 35%, I'll be way more excited about him, but it wouldn't shock me if he does play a little bit more of a backseat role if Simon's coming back. So he's still going to show up. Right now, I'm still close to field weight, so I'm not fading him or anything like that. I'm just not excited about it. So we'll see what happens. For the Raptors side of things, another team that's really just throwing in the towel hardcore. Scotty Barnes is questionable. Did we get the news he's out already?
I think he's available.
Okay. He's available,
Yep.
I guess. Is he in your DS? He's not in mine. We might need to update
Yeah, we
that.
still have him in exclusions for some reason, but he is playing tonight.
I just refreshed and he showed up. Okay, good.
Oh, yeah,
So Scotty's playing. Quickly's out, though. Jakob Poeltl is out. A lot of these other guys have been out for a while. But because of guys like Poeltl and Quickly being out who play really heavy minutes, you're seeing these Raptors pop a bit more. Who are you looking at, though, here, Brandon? If any.
Pretty much this top half of this team, they're all pretty cheap and should be seeing a ton of minutes. So definitely want to put all my attention there. Of course, Walter and She didn't have to do anything there. They're both core plays. And then Robinson, he's showing up. I think he was around 30%. 24 now, so good going there. And then Mogbo and Battle weren't really showing up for me, but again, they're just more value plays I want to throw in the mix. Definitely avoiding Barnes and Barrett.
Yeah. Tough spots for them. They just haven't been seeing the minute consistency you would like to see. Soft matchups, though, so there's always a chance they could go off, but they didn't stand out for me either. Core plays tonight are looking like it's going to be Walter, Sheed, and potentially Orlando Robinson. He's showing up for me significantly over the field. And I like these guys. They're solid 4K guys that are going to help me pay up for a lot of the studs that I want a lot of exposure to. Mogbo, I'm slightly under the field on. I didn't do anything to force him in. He's showing up around 11% for me. And Battle was standing out for me as well, too, on the sim model. But his lack of minutes, I just couldn't really get behind at this point. But I do think he's a solid 3,700 player. And at his ownership, if he goes off, you're going to want some exposure to him. Let's see. And outside of that, that's pretty much it. Battle is showing up in 1% of my lines. So we'll see what that does. Next up, we have the Grizzlies going up against the Heat. Tough matchup for the Heat, on paper at least. But the total is pretty solid at 226, but it's still only the third highest on the slate. Any of the Grizzlies standing out for you here against the Heat?
Edie is, of course. He's currently a core play. We were talking about him before the show. My only concern ever with him is the amount of minutes he will play. But it was a good sign. I think he played like 30 or 32 minutes last game. So I do think this is a spot where they'll need him. And it helps that Clark is out too. So definitely if he sees this 28 that we're projecting, I think he smashes his price tag. And then I think Jalen Wells was the only other Grizzly. Yep, 13%. He's just almost min price who plays close to 30 minutes. So not the most exciting play, but I think he's definitely viable at this price tag.
Yeah, fun fact about me, my greatest weakness is that I think I just get bored with plays once they get higher owned. So Zach Edey, when he was like 1-2% owned, I was like, oh yeah, he's the best leverage play ever. Let's make that happen. I didn't say it like that. He was just a leverage play. But now that he's chalky, I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to force it. We'll just see what the DS does. And thankfully, the DS likes him a good bit. I'm just not overly excited about it anymore because of that minutes inconsistency. He's still showing up for me in about 47% of my lines. So technically a leverage play at that point. But I'm not feeling overly passionate about it. But we'll let the DS do its thing. Bane, I think, could be a little sneaky here. The Heat have struggled against guards, and he's not quite as pricey as Ja, so I put a 2% min on him. JJJ and Aldama are viable, but I just think there's better plays on the slate. So I only forced 2% Bane. Edey is showing up in 47% of my lines, and then that's pretty much all I'm seeing from the Grizzlies tonight. The Heat are a bit more interesting for me. I've been picking on Memphis for a while now, and so I'm going to continue to do that. For Hero, it only helps that they're missing a few guys still. Andrew Wiggins being out is just huge for this team. Duncan Robinson's questionable, but doesn't move the needle for me as much. Highsmith is also questionable. I have a 15% min on Hero. Just a good spot, good usage rate. They're still playing for something. Bam, I have a 15% min on as well. Just a good matchup here against Edie. Young player, someone that he can definitely take advantage of here. And then Ware, I have a 6% min on as well. Just trying to make sure I'm matching the field on a lot of these guys that I think have plenty of upside in these spots. Mitchell and Larson, I didn't force exposure to, and they're not showing up for me. But what do you think, Brandon? Are you thinking about taking some shots on those players?
Yeah. So I did the same on Hero and Bam, of course. Like you said, Memphis. We keep saying it time after time. Just play guys against this team. But yeah, Larson is kind of hard to ignore how good he's been playing. So I did put a 10% min on him. Hopefully he stays in the starting line. That would be the only thing that would make me take that off if he happens to not start. And Mitchell, I'm still going back and forth on. I think I might land on forcing him in just again because it is Memphis. He's one of the more volatile guys on this team and very hard to trust. But I do like this spot in ownership, so I'm going to throw 10% min on him too. I thought about Ware as well, but he just hasn't been that great lately, so I didn't get there. And especially with some of the other options we have at center, I couldn't get there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the only reason I'm not really forcing exposure to Larson is because I'm still mad at him for last night, just showing up in 50% of my lines for God knows why. He was fine. He did well, but there just ended up being better options. So unless the DS wants to repeat last night, he's not showing up in my lines currently, but he's a very solid play tonight at only 4,400 going up against a god-awful Memphis team. He's been in great form too, so if he goes off, that's just going to be on me. The next game is my favorite game on the slate for good reason. It's also the highest total game with the closest spread on the slate. We talk about this all the time, y'all. We're looking for reasons to play these guys, not reasons not to. Who do you like, though, Brandon, from the Warriors side of things?
I'm playing quite a few of these guys. So I'll start with Curry, of course. Like, it might feel chasey playing him after the game he just had, which was just absolutely crazy. I was hoping he broke the record too, but he wasn't able to. But anyways,
like
him
solidify GOAT status.
Yeah, seriously, like he's the best shooter of all time. So that just felt like that's a record he has to have. But I'm sure he'll have another chance down the road. But anyways, if this ownership like stays true 5%, like I'm going well over that. I'm at 20% at the moment. So sorry, I need money, but Lakers just have a soft defense. So I think this is another spot he can take advantage. Playing Butler for the same reason. He really hasn't been the greatest, but again, it's a soft spot and projected to be really close. So wouldn't be surprised if we saw old Butler. And then Draymond kind of reminded everybody of what kind of upside he has when he wants to play without getting ejected from the game or just doing something crazy. So definitely wanted to take a shot at him at 6,500. And then guys like Hild and Moody, I just threw a 5% min on. One thing I'm trying to keep in mind too is if Kuminga misses again, since there's such a big gap between these games, it's going to be pretty hard to pivot to Hild and Moody if Kuminga does get rolled out. So just wanted some exposure there, and I think they both were popping on the sim model as well.
I like that. I wasn't thinking about Moody or Hield, but especially after last night, I don't dislike the way you're thinking about it. But I'm with you. I thought my 15% min on Curry was a little crazy, but you doing 20 makes me feel a lot better. So same thing. I mean, the Lakers are not as bad of a defense as Memphis is, but the Lakers typically struggle if teams are really good off ball, and the Warriors do a lot of movement off ball. And so they are one of those teams that typically do perform a bit better against a team like the Lakers, and with a spread as high and total, or spread as close and total as high, I am looking to play these guys. I have a 10% min on Jimmy Butler, 10% min on Draymond Green. I have an 8% min on Brandon Podziemski. Just more of a gut feel and just trying to find reasons to play these guys. It wouldn't shock me if he goes off at that price tag. And then I followed you on the 5% min on Moody, 5% min on Healed. Just trying to get as much exposure to this team as possible. Other side of this game, I don't love as much. I really just forced exposure to the studs. I have a 15% min on Doncic, and I have a 30% min on LeBron. Doncic, I just feel like I need to have exposure to, just in case this game goes crazy. And then LeBron, I actually do like in this spot at his price tag, so I want to make sure I was over the field there. So that was my strat here. Who are you looking at?
Yeah, I just put 20 on both LeBron and Luka and moved on. Everyone else is just way too hard to trust with all the usage both these guys take up. So definitely love LeBron tonight. It's a really, really good matchup for him. And we haven't said this in a while, but it is a nationally televised game tonight. So hopefully tonight will be the night where we see his ceiling games like we did earlier this season. And then Luka is Luka. Like he can go off any night. And then definitely if you're trying to pivot off of that Giannis ownership, he's perfect pivot. So definitely want to make sure I'm over the field at 13%.
Yeah, for me, just after forcing exposure to like Luka, LeBron, Paolo, and Curry, I just didn't have as much room for Giannis. If he shows up in a few lines, I won't be mad about it, but that's just the way it landed. And, LeBron could definitely have a night tonight. We're playing LeBron and Doncic. It's just the rest of the team we can't look at.
I will say, even though I always talk about their defense, like they actually aren't really a bad of team. Like I'm kind of, I won't say I'm surprised, but where they're at in the Western Conference as far as the standings, like they're a pretty solid team.
Yeah, look at that. William, good to see you, man. Appreciate it. Even if you're joining late, no worries. And then JM said, any love for Lonnie Walker? Yeah, Brandon, I think you were the one who forced exposure to him, and I followed you on that.
I forced 15%.
All right, we'll get to a couple of these questions. Looks like Big Rob said, what's up, fellas? What 3v3 would you take for single entry? Hero, LeBron, Paolo, or Giannis, Avdia, Barnes? For me, it's going to be the first side of that. What do you think, Brandon?
Yep, definitely the first side.
Mm-hmm. And then Dog said, what's your single entry faves by position? I'll go for now. At point guard, I'm looking at Sheed or Hero if you want to pay up. Shooting guard, I'm looking at Walter, Simons, or Carrington. Right now, I like Carrington in single entry, or Walter, probably a good bit there. Small forward, I like Kuzma or Avdia. Power forward, it's going to be LeBron for me, or if I'm paying down, really, primarily it's going to be LeBron for me or Paolo. And then centers, Orlando Robinson for now, but I don't hate Edie there. What's your thoughts, Brandon? What are you doing?
Pretty close. Point guard would be Sheed. Shooting guard would be Walter. Small forward would be Avdia, or I guess power forward, depending on where you place him. LeBron too for small forward or power forward. I guess you can throw Paolo in that mix as well, and then Edie or Robinson for center.
Yeah, I haven't made my single entry line yet, so that doesn't mean that's what I'm doing, but at least as of right now, that's what I would like to see. Let's see. JM said, can I play Butler and Curry together, or Curry and Draymond? Yeah, I don't hate that at all. Do you have?
I don't like Butler and Curry together, but I don't mind Curry and Draymond together. Also, Marcus Smart is starting for the Wizards.
And Yabu's playing. Appreciate that power. That's fucking crazy. How much is Marcus Smart?
3,500. So I'm sure his ownership is about to go up.
Yeah, I hate that, but it makes sense. So I'll end up playing it, I'm sure. All right, y'all. Well, that's pretty much everything. We will be back tomorrow. And hopefully, if you need anything, feel free to reach out in the Discord. But look forward to celebrating with y'all later. Peace out. Have a good one. Bye.